Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. And in today's video, we are doing something slightly different and hopefully fun. So I will be ranking Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, as well as some of his other general rule of thumbs that we know of. With me doing this, please be sure to note that Dave Ramsey has been teaching these baby steps for like 30 plus years. He's a multi-millionaire, so I am no way discrediting anything that he has done. I listen to Dave Ramsey and I actually like a lot of his things and his principles. And so I really think that it's not more so about, if he's correct, because he's obviously the multi-millionaire here, probably a billionaire soon. So that's not what I'm comparing, but I'm just talking about his advice and how it applies to me and to the people that I see around me, as well as how it holds up today. So it's not about, again, right or wrong, it's just about how I feel about it. So this is based on my opinions and my opinions only. So let's get straight into it. But before we do, remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel. So let's rank Dave Ramsey's baby steps. But before we do, let's go over to the tiers that we have today. So the first one is set for success. So this is like top tier advice. I'm talking golden advice. I think everybody should do it. It's like setting you up for success overall. The next one is solid advice. I think it'll work for most people, maybe not everybody. Maybe I don't do it, but I think it's still solid advice. It holds up well. The next one is it will work like 20 years ago. So this is advice that I feel like is maybe slightly outdated, or maybe it's not something that can hold up strongly in everybody's situation. So I just think it's a good advice, but like 20 years ago. Next is we are not a monolith. So this is advice that I think it's a good advice, but everybody should just do what works best for them. There's a big gray area and people should just do what works for them. We're not a monolith. We all don't have to do the exact same thing. If you do something different, slightly different, it probably just would work fine. The next one is with respect, sir, because I do respect Dave Ramsey, but it's like with all due respect. This is an advice. It's an advice. That's what it is. Next is just know. So with just know, I'm not doing it. It's not like I don't give financial advice here, but I would not recommend that my sister do it. And it's just a no from me. So that's where I'm going to stand with that. But let's go through this because I feel like it's just going to be all for fun and laughs. And at the end of the day, between the both of us, Dave Ramsey is the older one with 30 plus years of experience, lived experience, and a multi-millionaire. So my opinion is exactly that. My opinion. So the first baby step is, of course, to save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. In this step, your goal is to save up $1,000 as fast as you can. Your emergency fund will cover unexpected life events you can't plan for, and there are plenty of them. You don't want to dig a deeper hole while you are trying to work your way out of debt. I definitely agree with this one. I think one of the most unpopular opinion people would say is that $1,000 is just not enough. And of course, nobody said it was enough. But when you realize that about half of Americans can't cover $1,000 emergency fund, I realize that a lot of people who say that are the people who don't have an emergency fund at all, and they're basically trying to find a way to sidestep this step. Okay, so if you felt like that's not enough, how come over half of Americans don't even have that? And most emergencies are not even like the biggest emergencies in the world. Nobody's saying this emergency fund is enough. All it is a start emergency fund, because most people don't even have $1,000 to their name, much less for an emergency fund. So I'm personally gonna put baby step 1 into set for success, because it's just the beginning of a new journey, and $1,000 is something that a lot of people can do fast. They can do it immediately, within a few months at most. And if people are serious, they can even do it within like the next month. And it puts you on path as an easy way to succeed and to move on to the next thing. But let's move on to the next one, which is the baby step 2, which is pay off all debt. except the house, using the debt snowball. So I'm not going to read the entire thing, but you can read it for yourself. But basically, he recommends the snowball method, which I've talked about. I did a whole video on the snowball method versus the avalanche method. And it's well known that if you want to save money, the best and most effective way is the avalanche method. But if you want basically guaranteed success, use the snowball method. And he recommends the snowball method because he understands that finances is majority human behavior. So when people like to come be logical now about all these things, where was the logic when you're spending more money than you could afford and you were making? So in a human day-to-day, it's not a lot of logic as much as it is behavioral. However, I do think there are people who can benefit from the avalanche method. It's a very small minority. If they are successful in it, they would benefit from saving a ton of money depending on how much debt they have. So because of that, I'm just gonna put this advice in solid. So baby step 2 is gonna go into solid. I think a lot of people should do it, but mathematically speaking, and as an engineer, I respect math. Let's move on to baby step 3. So baby step 3 is where you save up 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. This is the real emergency fund, not the $1,000 starter one. So now you're fully funding your emergency fund. You've paid off your debt. Don't slow down now. Take the money you have and throw it at the debt. Fully funding your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of emergencies. This will protect you against life's biggest surprises like the loss of a job, your car breaking down, without slipping you back into debt. This is top tier advice because I have a whole video on emergency funds. Baby step 3 is definitely going into step for success. If you have 3 to 6 month emergency fund, heavy on the 6 month part, you are setting yourself up for great life success. And that's something that I think should be universal. Everybody should do it. Everybody should have at least 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, no matter what stage of life you're in. Have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. No debating it. Now, of course, there are going to be people who are like, what about a year? What about this? What about that? Come on. We're not doing that today. We're talking about a good one. If you lose your job in 6 months, hopefully you find a new one. So you wouldn't need a 1-year emergency fund. Of course, there are other bigger things, but that's why we have other savings. But emergency fund 3 to 6 months is solid. Heavy on the 6 months. Baby step 4 is to invest 15% of your household income in retirement. So it says now you can shift the focus of paying off debts and what is to starting to look ahead of the road. This is where you begin to regularly invest 50% of your gross income for retirement. Because if you're still working at 67, it should be because you want to, not because you have to. An investing pro can help you build this solid strategy. 15% is decent. I think this is much better than the 10% quote unquote pay yourself first argument or ideology. However, I'm gonna have to put this in, we are not a monolith. And I'm just gonna explain this. A lot of people unfortunately begin investing late. So 15% for the average person on the average salary is just not gonna be enough to retire, even when you're doing gross income. So the average person is earning less than $50,000 a year, and 15% of that is just under $10,000 a year. Now, of course, you can max out your Roth IRA, but we're talking about long term. That it might just be harder for you to retire and to reach retirement, full retirement, if you're only saving 15%. I think that it is a good strategy to at least max out your Roth IRA. So even if Roth IRA max is more than your 15% of your take-home pay or 50% of your gross income, still max out your Roth IRA and take advantage of tax advantage accounts. And I also think that sometimes if people are making more money, they should contribute more than 15% if they can afford to. So one day I hope to be able to max out every single retirement account, including a Roth 401k. I currently invest more than 50% of my gross pay, and I only want to build it up more and more. And I think we should encourage people to invest not just 15%, but what can get them to retirement. And so I'm gonna do We're Not a Monolith only because I think that 15% would not be enough for a lot of people. And if you made a lot of money, that would be good enough. But let's say you're making $100,000 and you're investing 15% of your gross, that's $15,000. I think we can do better than that, and we should step it up. Next is baby step 5, which is to save for your child's college fund. I am going to actually put this in set for success. Now, I know not everybody believes in this, but I feel like college funds are things that would definitely help a child. I know people be like, okay, I don't know if this child is going to go to college. How do we know? At least have it there. And there's accounts like 529s that they don't use it for college. They can use it for other things or take it out with paying off some taxes. But I think you should at least have something set aside for your kid. It doesn't have to be $70,000 a year for American University, but even if you have $20,000 that you've saved over the past 18 years to help your kid go into college if they choose to, or start, a business, or even go to trade school, it's worth it to save something to help your children in their education. You don't stop being a parent once your kid turns 18, and therefore you should not abandon them with the huge debt that college often is. Of course, I always promote scholarships, and I went to college without a college fund. I paid my way through with internships and scholarships, so it's possible. But with the rise of how much college is starting to cost, I would like to help my children pay for college. So I think this is setting them for success. Worst case, they don't go to college, they can use it for something else, they can take the money out. Best case, they go and they graduate debt-free. Baby step 6 is to pay off your home early. It says now bring it all home. Baby step 6 is the big dog. Your mortgage is the only thing between you and complete freedom from debt. Can you imagine a life with no house payment? Learn how extra money put towards your mortgage can save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest with our mortgage payoff calculator. So they have a mortgage payoff calculator, and this is so true. I know some financial experts would say that if your mortgage is like below 3%, 2%, you don't have to pay it off, like invest the money in the market. But I can see myself even paying it off early, and that's because I do that with my car payment. Even though my car payment, my interest is not what a lot of people are getting out here, it's actually decent interest rates. I'm still paying it off early because I don't like that payment. And so I can see myself putting the same energy into a mortgage and wanting to have a paid off house so that my entire paycheck is my paycheck. And I can invest more. I can put away more money for my children, go on nicer vacations with my entire family. So I'm going to put this in solid advice though, because I think, again, with the math, and I do respect math, there could be some people who will benefit from investing in the market. So let's say if you are 50 years old, instead of spending the next 5 years trying to pay off your mortgage early and then investing, if you have a very low mortgage rate like 3%, I think it would be best to pay off your mortgage, as the regular payments, and then invest the money in the market because you're getting more in return and you're closer to retirement versus me being in my 20s and 30s. If I have a house, I can afford to pay it off while still, invest in the market, but then be more aggressive now and then later putting more money into the market. So it's very solid advice. And for people who don't like debt, especially who don't want to owe anybody anything, this is solid advice. Now let's go to baby step 7, which is to build wealth and to give. It says, do you know what people with no debt can do? Anything they want. The last step is to have fun, live and give like nobody else. I love Dave Ramsey because when people call him, they're like, how you doing? It's like better than I deserve. He talks about living and giving like nobody else. And this is very important to me because I definitely want to be in a situation where I can comfortably give as much money as I can to really help the world. There's so many organizations and causes that I want to be able to support, and if I can like write $1 million check one day and not even like blink an eye, I pray that I get there one day. I pray that I get there one day. Maybe it's not $1 million, who knows, $10,000 check, that's great. And so living and giving like nobody else, that is very much a set for success level advice. What can I say? It's beyond solid advice. This is like amazing advice. So as you can see, a lot of Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps went to set for success because I do believe in his plan. I think the only ones is like the solid and one we're not a monolith, but none of them so far has been just no. So as you can see, a lot of his advice are setting people up for success, in my opinion, and so we're gonna go to the other ones though, because not so fast. He has some other ideas that I just want to evaluate. These are some of his principles that keep going on. So beyond the 7 baby steps, he has some things that he believes and he often talks about, and I'm also going to rank those as well. So the first one is about creating a budget. So baby step 0, or even before you start baby steps, is to create a budget. It's to get current on all your bills if you're behind. And as you all know, something I keep saying in a lot of my videos is to introduce yourself to a budget. because an introduction is much needed. Nobody I know of has enough money to just be living willy-nilly without a budget. You need some sort of structure. It doesn't have to be the most detailed budget if you're already in a good place, paid off all your debts, but you at least need a budget. And so because of that, this budget advice is going into Set for Success, because I mean, who are we if we don't have a budget? Dave Ramsey's packing it up with all these Set for Success advice. I believe everybody needs a budget. Everybody does. Moving on to the next one is cars and toys should be no more than 10% of your net worth. And this, I would say, is actually solid advice. And the reason why it's not Set for Success is I just don't see somebody who's beginning life who doesn't have much. So for example, let's say I spent $5,000 on a car. I don't have to have $50,000 if I'm just starting out my career for it to be 10%. Even when I graduated college and I moved here, I bought a car later on, but when I bought a car, I did not have a ton of money. So at the beginning, your net worth would heavily be in a car, because you may just have $10,000 to your name and $5,000 of that is in a car. You can't have $1,000 to your name and go buy a $100 worth of car. I mean, where are you getting that from? Unless you have a family member selling for you for nothing. But typically at the beginning, you're car heavy, and then as your net worth grow, as you reach say $100,000 and more, you shouldn't be so car heavy. So if you have $1 million in net worth, your car should not add up to any more than $100,000. I think that's going to be very solid advice. I'm just not putting Set for Success because I understand it in the beginning, because it happened to me and a lot of people that I know, they need that now. So I would say that people buying overpriced cars when you have almost nothing to your name, that's not a good move. But let's move on to the next thing. So this one is to buy a car in cash. And I'm actually gonna put this in Set for Success. And the reason why I say this is because I have a car payment right now, and honestly, it is one of those things that I feel like my life will be so much better once I don't have it. If I buy another car, it's not gonna be anytime soon because I bought a brand new car. I'm definitely going to buy it in cash. And if I don't have cash, I'm not buying it. You know, if you're going for a safe car, you just don't have that much money to your name, you might justify it, but take out the smallest loan that you can. But going to, again, get a BMW and have a $60,000 auto loan, that's ridiculous. I can't believe people actually do that. I could not imagine if I bought a Tesla. And the dealership would give me a Tesla if I wanted to, but to have that car payment for 72 months, for even 60 months. So the next one is to never use a credit card. I'm going to have to put this in we are not a monolith. And the only reason why I say that is because I get where he's coming from. I do think that not a lot of people are credit card people, as Caleb Hammer would say. You're not a credit card person. I do use credit cards. And he likes to say something like, nobody ever got rich from using credit cards. Of course, that's true. But I've earned money from using credit cards, and I've never paid a dime of interest. I got my first credit card when I was about 20 years old, and it helped me to be able to buy my car and to get an apartment, because when I moved here, I didn't have any credit history except for my credit card. And had I not had that, it would have been very hard for me to get an apartment. And when you don't have that much money to put up front, it's just something that really helps you. And my credit card has been able to give me 2 free round trips, of course. So it didn't make me rich, but I saved hundreds of dollars on trips, and my next trip is probably going to be free as well. I've saved a lot of money with my American Express on checked bags. It's not, again, making you rich, but even when I saved over $800 on plane tickets, that's $800 that's going towards other things like an emergency fund. So do I believe everybody should have a credit card? No, I don't think most people should have a credit card. But we're not a monolith, and I think it's okay for people who can and are responsible with credit cards to have one. Moving on to the next one is buy a house in cash. Because of the whole no debt thing, he does believe that you should buy a house in cash, but they don't scream at you for getting a mortgage. But if you wanted to buy, say, a rental property after paying off your house, you should buy it in cash. And I'm actually gonna put this in, it will work like 20 years ago. Which it doesn't mean it doesn't work, but the thought of even buying a rental property for $200,000-$300,000, and that's even on the low side, you're looking at more towards like maybe $300,000-$400,000 and more for a rental property. I just don't see why, if I have a paid for primary residence, I can't take out another mortgage for a secondary one because I don't have a house payment. Why can I do that? It's a good advice. Maybe 20 years ago, it would have been easier to buy a house in cash. Today, houses are very expensive. Interest rates are a lot, and so I do see the positive of buying in cash. The time it's going to take you to save $300,000-$400,000 to buy a rental property. By then, that rental property will be costing $500,000. So I just think that this is good advice for like 20 years ago. Moving on to the next one is don't invest in anything you don't understand. And this is going to go into Step for Success. Dave Ramsey definitely talked about the crypto going on and how people were investing in crypto without understanding. And of course, we've heard the stories of people losing their life savings in crypto. And so I'm a big believer in that. If you're going to invest in something, at least understand it. So let's move on to the next one, which is to get term life insurance. I definitely believe this is solid advice. The only reason why I'm putting it in solid and not Set for Success is because some people are not investing the way they should. The full life insurance policy is what would get them slightly more. I mean, it's such a twisted way, but I just have to think about it from some people's perspective. That maybe a life insurance policy would at least help them save. Is it the most optimal? No. But as you get older, if you have a full life insurance policy, at least that's something that is there and kind of guaranteed. Some people use it for all these weird savings accounts and stuff. I don't believe in that. I personally will not do permanent life insurance policy. I do term, but I guess it could work for some people, and that's why it's just solid. I'm not gonna do it. The next one is to make a will, and this is going into Set for Success for me. When I hear people dying and they don't have wills, I'm just like, why? Why not just have a will? Even if you feel like you have nothing to your name, still make a will. I just think that it's important that everybody has a will. Whether you're 20, 40, 60, and especially if you're over the age of 70, make a will. Please do. You're gonna save so much in just headaches, and that's even worth it. So make a will. This is top tier advice. Everybody should do it. Set for success. Success for the family. Success for the generation that is taken up after you. The next one is that spouses should share finances. And I'm going to put this in solid advice. And the only reason why this is not set for success is because I think there is a way that it should be integrated into each other. Preferably, I would like it if my spouse and I share finances in the future. But there are times where things happen, times where people fall into bad times and you need reinforcement. So for example, if you're married to somebody who has a gambling addiction or alcoholism or something else, please make sure you split finances and preferably take control of a majority of it, because otherwise it's leading you all down a really bad hole. While they're like getting help, while they're trying to get better, you should support them in that, but still protect yourself and your family, especially if you have children, because nobody gains when you're all end up homeless because you just want to split finances. So this is very solid advice, and I think it would help for a lot of people. I believe that when you get married, you become one in finances, one in goals, one in dreams, and that's how a marriage should work. And so I'm not opposed to that, but I'm also not opposed to alternative methods depending on the situation. And the next one is MLMs. So Dave Ramsey seemed to have this strange relationship with MLMs where he doesn't condemn them. When somebody calls about being recruited into an MLM and how they lost money, he has this way of phrasing it. I feel like it's just gonna be in between with respect, sir, and just no, because I feel like if I am in such a place of power and I've watched people over the years and just how the framework of MLMs work, if I have that position of power, I would recommend that nobody joins an MLM at all. Get a job, get a regular job. Are there people who succeed in MLMs? Yes, but a very select few. And I think Dave Ramsey knows the numbers. Majority of people at the bottom either make no money or they lose money. So overall, it's a just no for me, with all due respect, sir. But he always has this way of going around it that sometimes when I listen to calls like that, I just like turn it off, or it makes me feel uncomfortable because I think he wants to say something, but he probably knows a lot of people in MLMs, and so he doesn't want to offend them, so he doesn't say it. And he doesn't have to say it. My views are very clear on it because I almost got recruited into an MLM twice, so let's move on. That's a story for a whole nother day. And his last one is his belief about paying tithes even while paying off debt. This is very much a set for success level advice, because I really believe that you should give, even from the little that you have, you should give something. And it's just a way of showing gratitude while building the habit of giving. It's hard to give from day one, but if you build a habit little by little, and I still believe that even if you're not a Christian, you should still be giving. Everybody should give, because we don't live in this world alone. Now, another one of Dave Ramsey's beliefs I really wish he would address more straightforwardly is this idea of getting a mortgage. Baby step 3B, he talks about building a down payment on a house, 10 to 20%. And 20% if you want to not pay the mortgage insurance. He also recommends that you get a 15-year fixed mortgage, which is no more than 1/4 of your take-home pay. And I really wanted to discuss this part because somehow I don't know how a lot of people in this country can afford a house based on that formula. And the reason why is because let's say you make $8,000 for the average household income. That's a little bit more, but let's say it's $80,000. Well, after taxes and insurance and saving 15% of their gross pay for retirement, they're probably taking home like what, maybe $55,000. And that's something else a lot of the Ramsey team ignores. They don't almost like factor in taxes. So if somebody calls in, they're like, hey, I make $150,000 and I'm trying to pay off debt, they'll be like, okay, live on the 50 and pay off debt with 100. Where are the taxes in there? And also the giving. In our original example, you're grossing $80,000. It means you're paying tithes $8,000, which is a lot of money, but it's tithes given. And so you give that faithfully. So in Dave Ramsey's example, if I'm bringing home $50,000, let me pull out my calculator because I don't want to get any of these numbers wrong. So I decided to settle on the number of $55,000 just because the tithe part it's not even included because it's still part of your take-home salary. He's not including that. So let's say that you have $55,000, your take-home salary, 1/4 of that should go to housing, and that includes your mortgage and the insurance of the mortgage and taxes as well. So that leaves you with $13,750 per year. But when you divide that by 12, which is per month, it means that your mortgage plus taxes and insurance have to all equal to or be below $1,145. Tell me where in America you're going to get this deal. And this is for a 15-year fixed mortgage. I don't want to say he's being disingenuous. I just feel like he's not understanding that in order to make a mortgage payment, in order to buy a house in the country today, which today the average house is over $250,000 in the United States, your 15-year fixed mortgage and taxes is not going to be under $2,000. So in order to make that mortgage payment, he would then say, well, put down more. Maybe, but I think he should lead with that rather than the 15-year fixed mortgage, 1/4 of his take-home salary, putting down 20%. Because that does not really work. So the average mortgage payment in the United States is about $1,768. So right now, well over. So if you're making $80,000 household income, you're already probably not gonna make it. We are going to round it up to about $2,000 just for taxes and insurance. It's probably gonna be more than that, but let's just say that some of that is already included. So it's $2,000. In order for $2,000 to be 1/4 of your take-home pay, it means you have to bring in home $8,000. And if you're already putting away 15% minus taxes, of course insurance, because insurance, healthcare, and all those things are taken out before you take home pay. This means that you have to be grossing at minimum probably $11,000-$12,000 a month. Let's go with $12,000 a month, just so that you can make that $2,000 mortgage payment per month in his solution. And that $12,000 comes up to $144,000 a year that you have to make to afford a $2,000 a month mortgage, including the insurance and including taxes. In an ideal world, that would work, but because houses are a lot of times people's biggest form of wealth, I really think that he has to be clear on this, and he needs to give realistic examples to make it clear to people, because I don't see how people can do it. I don't even see how I can do it on his formula. If I was to buy a house now, it would definitely not be 1/4 of my take-home pay. Even for renting an apartment, it is not 1/4 of people's take-home pay. And you don't want to be house poor. So of course, I'm not talking about buying a mega mansion that you can't afford. This is coming from the average house. This is for people who are not living luxurious life. It is still over 1/4 of the average household income take-home pay. And overall, this is the ranking that we have. So Dave Ramsey's advice, I think, are a lot of time top-notch. He obviously has lived experience. He gives good advice. He gives faith-based advice, which I really like. So let me know in the comment section, how would you rank some of these? If you disagree with any of my rankings, let me know. Be nice about it. These are opinions. Everybody has them, so these are just mine. I really like ranking videos, and I actually enjoyed this one. I think it was kind of fun and different from what I typically do. I would try another one in the future on something else. Let me know what you think. But thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and like this video if you liked it. Ring the notification bell because I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Come on over because the conversation is always great. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.